The turkey was dry. That's the first thing I remember from that night. Not the voices, not the laughter, not even the moment everything cracked open like an old rafter in a forgotten attic. Just the bland, rubbery chew of overcooked meat, pulled apart on a too-polished plate. I remember thinking, she used the rosemary again. Not because she liked it, but because her mother did. Joy always did what her mother wanted. The table was set like it was auditioning for a catalog. White linens, silver chargers, little glass name tags Jenna had made back in her Etsy phase, long before she stopped pretending to like me. Even the jazz playing in the background was curated, like everything in this house. Clean, controlled, cold. Elaine sat at the head, like a queen visiting a province she'd long since abandoned. She wore a wool shawl, thick and red, though the house was hot enough to sweat in. She kept lifting her wine glass and smiling like someone who wanted to remind you how much they'd spent on it. And then there were Joy's kids, grown technically. Jenna, 28, sharp-featured, with that brittle kind of beauty that looked expensive but felt like glass. And Lucas, 2 years younger, quieter but just as pointed. Their presence at the table always felt like a formality, like I'd been grandfathered into a script I wasn't allowed to edit. Joy tried to make it seem effortless, the dinner, the setting, all of it, but there was tension in every move she made. The way her hands gripped the carving knife too tightly. The way her smile cracked when Elaine made one of her soft, backhanded comments. "It's so nice to see you still decorating," her mother had said when she walked in. "I thought you'd given up." She hadn't let me help with dinner. She never did anymore. Not since the Christmas she claimed I oversalted the ham. Said I hovered, that I made things worse. So I sat in the corner and played my part. The man who brings wine and clears plates. The outsider. Jenna and Lucas were halfway through their first glasses of Pinot when I tried to start conversation. A small thing. I asked about Lucas's job. I remembered he'd started something new, something with logistics or IT. He gave a clipped answer barely above a grunt. I pushed again, gently. I tried to ask Jenna how the move was going. She and Evan had just gotten a place across town, a 2-bedroom they couldn't quite afford. I had offered to help with the down payment once. She never responded to the message. She didn't answer my question either. Instead, she turned her head toward me, slow, surgical, like a camera panning toward a mistake. "You're not even our dad," she said flat. "Why do you always insert yourself?" The words didn't come like a punch. They came like a scalpel. Precise. Practiced. No one moved. Not even Elaine. Not even Joy. Joy didn't flinch. She didn't say a word. Just kept looking at her plate, nodding. As if Jenna had made an observation about the weather. As if agreement cost nothing and loyalty was too expensive. I looked at my wife, the woman I had loved for 12 years, who I'd paid rent for, fixed the roof for, held through her sister's funeral. The woman whose kids I'd driven to school, whose bills I'd covered without ever once being asked. I looked at her, waiting, wanting, nothing, just silence. I didn't eat another bite. The turkey sat on my plate like a fossil. I chewed the air instead, bit down on my tongue and swallowed whatever I had left. After dinner, I went to the garage. No one asked where I was going. Not that they ever did. The cold hit me first, sharper than it should have been for November. I left the door cracked, just enough to see the glow of the kitchen windows. The light didn't reach me. The garage was what I had made it. Pegboard walls lined with tools, shelves full of bins I'd labeled and sorted myself. I'd poured hours into that place. Fixed the leaky water heater out here. Rewired the garage door opener when it failed 2 winters ago. No one noticed. No one asked. Joy called it your space. Not as a gift, but as a way to contain me, like a dog with a yard. I stood for a while, letting the chill settle into my skin. I didn't turn the light on. The dark felt honest. I thought about everything I had done, every year, every dollar, every quiet compromise. I thought about the night Jenna called crying because her brakes had gone out, and I drove an hour in the snow to help her. I remembered the texts from Lucas asking for advice on his resume. I remembered buying them both gift cards last Christmas, even though Joy said not to. I remembered how Joy looked when we first met. How she used to rest her head on my shoulder when she was tired, whispering about how lucky she felt. That was before the kids moved back in. Before Elaine made it clear I wasn't family. I heard the door open behind me. Footsteps. Voices. Jenna. Evan. They were arguing, low and vicious. "I told you not to start shit at dinner," he hissed. "And I told you I'm sick of pretending," she snapped. "He acts like he's part of the family." I turned my head, barely. They froze when they saw me. "What? You just sit out here like a creep?" Jenna asked. Her voice slurred slightly. Her face was flushed. Evan said nothing, just stood behind her, arms crossed, his mouth a hard line. I didn't move, didn't speak. She stepped closer. "Say something," she dared. "Go ahead, play the victim. That's what you're good at." Still, I said nothing. And then, without warning, she shoved me. Hard. 2 hands. Straight to the chest. My back hit the concrete with a crack. Pain bloomed through my ribs, sudden and white. I heard Evan exhale. "Maybe now he'll shut up," she muttered. And then he added, "Let him lie there." They walked out, shut the door behind them. No hesitation. I lay there for a while, cold bleeding into my spine, my breath shallow. The tools loomed above me on the walls like old friends I hadn't seen in years. I thought, this is what it's come to. Not a blow-up. Not a screaming match. Just a silent exile. A body left in a cold garage, where no one would bother to check. I reached for my phone, opened it with trembling fingers. Made one short call. Just one. The kind of call you make when something inside you breaks and you finally understand, really understand, that you've been living in someone else's home. That you've been a wallet with a face. That love, if it ever existed, has long since been spent. What happened next they'll remember, not because I yelled, not because I fought, but because I finally acted. And when I act, I do it quietly, efficiently, like a man who's been planning his exit longer than they ever knew. They thought I'd move on, that I'd swallow it. Same as always. Pretend it didn't happen. Pretend I hadn't been shoved to the concrete like trash waiting for pickup. Pretend I didn't hear the door click shut behind them as I lay there. Ribs screaming, heart hollow. But something had shifted. I didn't bleed. Not in the way they would have seen. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just stood back up. Slowly. Quietly. Like a man who finally realizes no one is coming to help and stops needing help altogether. That night, I didn't sleep in the bedroom. Joy didn't ask why. She didn't ask about the bruise on my side or the silence in my mouth. She just watched me walk past her, blanket and pillow in my arms, and said nothing. I took the couch, creaked under me. I stared at the ceiling for hours, the pattern in the drywall forming shapes I didn't want to name. By morning, I had already begun. The first wire I cut was Jenna's credit card. A little plastic parasite I had co-signed 3 years ago when she wanted to build credit. I logged in, removed my name, flagged it for closure. Second was the family phone plan. She and Lucas had both been on it. Quiet little leeches, buried in the fine print of my generosity. I scheduled the cancellation for the next billing cycle. Then came the bank transfers, the ones Joy never acknowledged, the ones that kept Jenna's apartment afloat and Lucas's car on the road. I shut them all off. No warnings. No explanations. Just silence. The same silence they had shown me for years. It wasn't revenge. It was math. I had paid for everything. Not just for Joy. For all of them. For a decade. Birthdays. Groceries. Broken computers. Surprise parking tickets. Late-night calls that ended in PayPal links. I was the foundation. The ghost in the walls holding everything up. And they didn't even know my name. So I disappeared. Not physically. That would have made it too easy for them. No, I disappeared in the ways that mattered. I stopped responding to texts. Let the group chat rot. Stopped offering to drive anyone anywhere. Stopped reminding Joy to pay the electric bill. And watched as the warning notice showed up 2 weeks later. Bright red. Like a wound on the counter. I didn't say a word. Let them feel it. The first to notice was Jenna. She called Joy, furious, the day her card got declined at brunch. Something about a client meeting, a restaurant bill, public embarrassment. She screamed through the speaker while Joy stood in the kitchen, phone trembling in her hand. He said he'd cover this, Jenna snapped. This is his responsibility. Joy looked at me then, a flicker of something in her eyes. Not guilt, just surprise, like she was seeing me for the first time in weeks. I didn't respond. I sipped my coffee and walked out. Lucas was next. He emailed me, of all things, said he couldn't log into his work account. Apparently the business laptop I'd bought and registered under my own software had locked him out. He was losing productivity, threatened to report the issue. I marked the email as spam. Joy confronted me that evening, not with anger, with confusion. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. We were standing in the hallway, the same hallway where I had once hung all those family pictures, the ones where I was always off to the side. "I'm not doing anything," I said. "I just stopped pretending." She didn't understand, or she didn't want to. She whispered something about the kids needing stability, that I was being harsh, that I was acting out of hurt. I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "I am." She didn't have a reply for that. By the end of the week, the cracks had spread. The thermostat glitched. I didn't fix it. The garage opener failed. I let it. Joy's car wouldn't start. I stood in the driveway and watched her call AAA. I became a shadow, but not the useless kind. The kind that had always been doing the work in silence. The kind you only notice once the light's gone. Lucas texted Joy asking for help with his car insurance. She forwarded it to me. I replied, "Ask his father." There was no response. The thing about systems is they break quietly until they don't. One day you wake up and the fridge is humming too loud. The bathroom faucet won't shut off. The bills are stacking up, and the man who used to fix everything isn't in the room anymore. That's what happened to them. They stopped knowing how to function. Joy missed a deadline at work because the internet glitched. Jenna called 3 times in one day. Lucas started texting Joy late at night. Something about overdraft fees. I never raised my voice. Never shouted. Never made a speech about sacrifice. I just let it all happen. I watched the house hollow itself from the inside out. And I realized something. I had always been invisible. But now I was essential. And they were only just starting to see it. But seeing isn't the same as valuing. They didn't apologize. Didn't ask why. They just wanted the help to come back. They missed the utility, not the man. They missed the comfort, not the father, not the partner. Joy started leaving me notes. Sticky ones. On the fridge. On the bathroom mirror. By the coffee maker. "I know you're hurt. We need to talk. This isn't like you." But it was. It was exactly like me. They just hadn't been paying attention. She left one last note. Longer than the others. Folded in half. Tucked under my pillow. It said, "I didn't agree with Jenna. I just didn't want to escalate it. I thought it would pass. Please don't punish all of us." I read it once. Then I lit it on fire in the sink. Let the ashes swirl into the drain. Not out of spite, but because if she had to explain herself now, days later, weeks too late, then she had never stood beside me to begin with. They thought I was stubborn. What they didn't see was the scar. The place where something used to live. And how quiet a man becomes when he knows he's been erased. Not loudly, not violently, but slowly, with indifference. That kind of silence doesn't break. Calcifies. By the start of week 3, the foundation had crumbled. And no one had even noticed the hammer was missing. By the start of week 3, the house had begun to rot in its silence. The walls didn't echo with voices anymore. No music. No clatter of pans. Just the low hum of appliances like a machine dying by degrees. Even the air felt different. Thicker somehow, like grief. The mail piled higher than usual. No one picked it up but me. I didn't sort it. Just placed it on the dining table, a slow-growing monument to neglect. Past due notices. Credit warnings. Rejected transactions. I let them stack until the pile blocked the centerpiece. They still hadn't asked me directly. That was the part that made it worse. They walked around me like I was radioactive, like they could absorb damage just by standing too close. Lucas finally broke the silence. He cornered me near the back door one evening, voice stiff with false politeness. "Hey, I'm trying to figure out what happened with my school account. The payments stopped and now they're threatening to lock me out of the portal. Do you know anything about that?" I looked him in the eye, flat, calm. "Ask your real dad." His face shifted, like something behind his eyes buckled. He didn't argue, didn't protest. He just blinked and backed away, like a man realizing the bridge is gone and he's already halfway across. That same night, I heard Jenna yelling through the walls. She was on the phone with someone, probably her bank. Her voice cracked, high and sharp, like something scared and angry all at once. "I don't understand how this even happened. It was on autopay. It's supposed to just work." Then a pause, then louder. "He's the one who set it up. He should have told me." I stood in the hallway, invisible. She never said my name. Just he, like I was a service that had gone offline. I walked past Joy in the kitchen. She didn't look up from the stove. "We need to talk," she whispered. "About what?" I asked. She didn't answer, because she didn't know how to say it. That her comfort depended on my labor. Her children's lives ran on the fuel of my exhaustion, and now the tank was empty. So instead she said nothing. The next morning, Jenna showed up at the house. Unannounced, uninvited. Her eyes were red. She didn't take off her coat. Joy made tea like everything was normal. I sat at the far end of the table. Jenna didn't even look at me. "I was dropped from my program," she said. Joy froze, mid-stir. The spoon clinked against the mug. "What?" "They sent an email last night. Non-payment. They said they warned me, but I never got anything." Then she turned to me. "You knew." I didn't flinch. "I did. You could have fixed it." "I'm respecting your wishes," I said. "You told me I wasn't your father. I'm acting accordingly." The silence after that felt like smoke. Thick, toxic. Joy tried to bridge it. Always the diplomat. "This is going too far. Can't we just—" "No," I said. "We can't. You're destroying everything," she whispered. "No," I said. "I just stopped pretending." That was the moment it all snapped. You could feel it, like a tension wire breaking. Years of pressure suddenly loose in the walls. Jenna stormed out, slammed the door so hard the front window rattled. Joy sat there, both hands around her mug, eyes staring down at the swirl of cream like it held answers. I went to the garage, the one place I still belonged. I sat on the old stool, next to the shelf of tools I used to fix their lives. That was where Lucas found me. He walked in like a man approaching a funeral. "I need help with tuition," he said. "The grant didn't cover everything this semester. I've got 3 weeks before they put a hold on my registration." I nodded slowly. "And your real dad?" Lucas looked away, picked at the skin on his thumb. He's not really around." "Then maybe don't throw away the man who is." He didn't respond, didn't apologize either. They never apologized. Joy tried again that night, sat next to me on the edge of the bed like she used to, back when things were simpler. She reached for my hand. "We can't let this break everything," she said. I stared at the wall. "It already did. They're your family too." "No," I said. "They're yours." She flinched. "They're grown, Joy. Adults. I'm not punishing children. I'm responding to adults who made their position clear." Her voice cracked. "So what? You're just going to watch everything fall apart?" I turned to her, calm, cold, honest. "I'm not watching. I'm letting it." That was the first night she cried loud enough for me to hear. Behind the locked bathroom door. Not sobs, not wails, just long, brittle exhales, like something leaking. I didn't comfort her. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. I wasn't part of their home. I was just the scaffolding, the laborer, the silent mule behind their stability. And now I was sitting still and the building was sagging. I heard Jenna yell again 2 nights later. Through the vents this time. She was on speakerphone with someone, maybe Evan, maybe a friend. I don't get it. He's just watching us fall. Like he enjoys it. She didn't know I was lying awake in the next room. She didn't know I was staring at the ceiling, hearing every syllable, and feeling nothing. Not triumph, not sadness, just stillness. They called it cruelty, but cruelty is inflicting pain. I was just removing aid. They called it punishment, but punishment is when you react out of vengeance. I was acting out of absence, a withdrawal, a subtraction. They were finally experiencing the math. They had laughed with their mouths full and looked through me for years, and now they were choking on the cost. Lucas left another note on the counter. A sticky tab this time. Same ones I used to leave him reminders with when he was in high school. Can we talk? I'm sorry if it came out wrong that night. It hadn't come out wrong. It had come out exactly as intended. They weren't sorry for the words. They were sorry for the consequences. Big difference. Joy told me I was being heartless. I told her I had no heart left for this house. Then why are you still here? She snapped. And for once I smiled. Because this is my house. She didn't respond. She couldn't. Because deep down she knew I had bought it. I had paid for every square inch. Every pipe. Every board. Every nail. I was the skeleton. They were just the skin. And now the bones were resting. They started walking softer after that. Lower voices. Fewer demands. The fear had crept in. Not of me. Of reality. Of the life that waited outside my support. Joy brought me coffee one morning. Black. No sugar. Just the way I took it. She didn't say anything. Just placed it near my hand and walked out. Like a peace offering. But peace requires truth. And our house hadn't known truth in years. I drank it anyway. Because it was bitter. And I was used to the taste. By the end of the month, the house was quiet in a way I had never known before. Not peaceful. Not resolved. Just emptied of resistance. No voices filtered down the hallway. No thudding footsteps overhead. The floors stopped creaking because no one moved. Even the refrigerator hum seemed to hesitate before continuing. Jenna moved out on a Tuesday. Didn't say goodbye. I only knew because I heard the trunk slam while I was trimming the hedges. She hauled 2 suitcases and a box of shoes into her boyfriend's car. Left the door swinging open behind her. I watched her drive away from the corner of my eye. Didn't pause. Didn't wave. She didn't look back. Lucas stayed longer. Out of necessity, not loyalty. He started pulling late shifts at some delivery gig, groceries or packages, something that paid by the hour and aged him by the day. He didn't say much anymore. Didn't ask for help again either. He passed me in the hallway like a tenant behind on rent. Eyes low. Shoulders curled. Always moving. Joy's mother called one night. I picked up. She hadn't expected that. Is everything all right? She asked, cautious. It's exactly how they wanted it, I said. Silence. Then, you sound different. I am. She asked to speak to Joy. I said Joy was unavailable. And she was. Even when she stood 5 feet away from me drying a plate. Even when we shared a bed where the space between us had turned into a canyon. Joy tried to talk to me again that weekend. She brought me a photo album, the kind we used to flip through during slow winters. Pictures of birthday cakes, candles, unevenly wrapped presents. The snapshots where I stood behind them, hands on their shoulders, smiling like I belonged. She opened to a page. You built this, she said. I nodded. And now it's gone. I looked her in the eye. I didn't tear it down. I just stopped holding it up. She closed the album. That was the last real conversation we had. From then on, it was nods, muted gestures, the kind of communication reserved for strangers in waiting rooms. They thought I'd cave. They thought this was a phase. They were wrong. Because the moment I felt the garage floor against my back, Jenna's voice above me, Evan's indifference, the door shutting me into darkness, I knew something had ended. Something I'd kept alive long after it should have died. They thought I was a father by choice. They never understood I had been one by sacrifice. So I withdrew, and watched them collapse under the weight they thought I had never carried. Lucas's tuition was suspended. I saw the envelope on the table, his name in bold. Urgent. He never opened it. Just shoved it in a drawer. One day I found him sitting on the porch, knees bouncing, eyes empty. He didn't see me walk past. Didn't say anything. I left him there. Not out of hatred. Out of consistency. They made their choices. I was honoring them. Joy started staying later at work. Claimed it was projects. Deadlines. I knew better. She couldn't face the house anymore. Not as it was. Not with the wreckage exposed. One night, I found her asleep on the couch. Television still playing. Her hand curled around the remote like a lifeline. I covered her with a blanket. Not because I wanted to. Because I remembered who I used to be. But I didn't stay. Because that man. The one who tucked her in, who fixed the locks, who sat in silence and swallowed insult after insult, he was gone. Lucas moved out midweek. Quietly, I heard the front door click shut at 3 a.m. His room was empty by morning. Closet open. Drawers ajar. Like he left in a hurry, or just didn't care what he left behind. Joy said nothing when she saw. She didn't cry. Didn't sigh. Just walked into the kitchen and started making coffee. I watched her from the hallway. Wondered if she'd say something. Anything. A memory. A regret. An apology. She didn't. Because the silence had become safer than the truth. The truth that she had stood by while her children tore me down. That she had let them cut me loose and expected me to keep swimming toward the shore. They were gone. She was still here. But I wasn't. Not really. I still paid the mortgage, for now. Still mowed the lawn. Still ran the dishwasher. But emotionally, I had moved out the same night Jenna left me in the garage. I just hadn't packed a bag. I started sleeping in the guest room. No explanation. No ceremony. She didn't fight it. Didn't follow. Eventually, I stopped wearing my ring. Left it on the windowsill in the laundry room, next to the detergent. It stayed there for days. Then disappeared. I didn't ask. Because we had both agreed to silence long before we stopped speaking. By the start of the new month, the house felt like a museum. Still full of things, but hollow. Touched only by ghosts. Joy asked me one final time if I wanted to talk. I just want to understand, she said. I looked at her for a long moment. Took in the tired lines around her eyes. The weight of regret she didn't know how to carry. You let them do this, I said. Her mouth opened, then closed. I turned and walked away. She never asked again. The next day, I came home to find the dining table cleared. The centerpiece gone. The pile of mail sorted into folders I didn't recognize. Her handwriting on the labels. A subtle gesture. A signal, maybe. Too late. Respect is not something you file. It's something you fight for in the moment, not after the damage is done. That night, I sat alone in the living room. No television. No lights. Just me and the sound of the clock ticking on the mantel. I thought about the years. 10 of them. 10 birthdays. 10 Christmases. 10 Halloweens where I carved the pumpkins and they didn't bother to thank me. 10 years of splitting paychecks, covering gaps, buying phones, laptops, holidays. 10 years of pretending I wasn't a placeholder. 10 years of hoping they'd come around. They never did. Because no one taught them to. Because Joy let them believe love didn't require respect. She let them speak to me like I was disposable. And now they'd learned what happens when the disposable parts go missing. People think fatherhood is a title. It's not. It's an investment. And when the market crashes, when the people you've poured into spit on the hands that fed them, you don't double down. You cut your losses. You protect what's left of yourself. That's what I did. And that's what they'll remember. Not the dinners. Not the road trips. Not the repaired fences or late-night rides to the emergency room. They'll remember the moment the money stopped. The moment the rides ended. The moment the man who never raised his voice finally walked away. Quietly, coldly, completely. Because that's what silence does. Teaches you what noise never could. It reveals what people are made of when the safety net disappears. Jenna will remember the day her card got declined in front of her friends. Lucas will remember the eviction notice he couldn't make sense of. Joy will remember the night I didn't come back to bed. And me? I'll remember that I gave them everything. And they gave me nothing. So I ask you, was I cruel? Was I wrong to demand that love be met with something other than expectation? Or was I just the man who finally stopped bleeding for a family that never offered a bandage? You tell me, because I lived it, and I wouldn't live it again, not for a single breath.